Hello and welcome everyone to Koo Lab. My name is Koo and this is our laboratory for learning. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to try something a little bit different today. I'm going to be looking at an article and breaking down an article while I'm reading it to you. We're going to try sort of a live stream format. I'm going to record this one, but if we like this kind of format, if we like this kind of material or lesson, then I might actually do it live so that we can get some interaction with the community. So do let me know how you like this kind of lesson format. Today we're going to be breaking down an article, I hope a fun article. I'll be looking at some of the vocabulary, some of the grammar points, and adding a little bit of extra context that I think is quite necessary for these types of articles. This is geared towards B2 to C1 level, so that upper intermediate to beginning advanced, if that's a way to put it. And so we'll be looking at that type of vocabulary. We'll be looking at that type of grammar. And if that interests you, do stick around. Let's go ahead and jump into it and get ready for another Koo Lab. This one comes to us from NPR. This is from Jacqueline Diaz. And since the 4th of July is coming up, we're going to be looking at this particular article. This article is titled, "Barbecue is Everywhere for the 4th of July. Here's its origin story." So this is quite interesting. A lot of people like to barbecue all over the world. So hopefully this is a fun article that talks about the origins of barbecue. Now the word origin, of course, means the beginning. How did it start? So we talk about your origin story. We talk about what happened when you were young or what happened to begin something. So origin is what that means. Take a look here. This is one of those sort of tricky ones. This is the its. Why does this its not have an apostrophe here? That's right. This is the possessive its. So this is not the contraction it is. So this is talking about here's its origin story. And in this sentence, its possessive is referring to barbecue. So here's barbecue's origin story. So this is us talking about this, us understanding the origin of barbecue. So it should be kind of fun. Let's jump in. Maybe you spell it B-A-R-B-E-C-U-E, barbecue, or B-A-R-B-E-Q-U-E, maybe in the UK or in Europe, or BBQ, different spellings of the word barbecue. And maybe you prefer a nice charred burger to a smoky steak and a sweet sauce over one that has more of a vinegar tang to it. So this sentence has lots of things going on. So prefer, of course, means choice. You prefer something, that's your choice. Charred burger. Charred in this sentence means cooked, well done, maybe has a little burnt ends on it. So we add something with a lot of heat, a lot of flame, it becomes charred. It's a little black on the edges. A lot of times on a burger, that's quite nice, got a good taste to it. The middle can still be cooked, maybe medium, but charred has got a nice little crispy to the outside. To a smoky steak. So this refers to a steak maybe cooked on a barbecue that has charcoal or wood smoke, right? So smoke in here is describing the flavor, maybe the smell of the steak, and it has a smoke flavor because you use smoke. You prefer a nice charred burger to a smoky steak. So in this case, to a, right? We're comparing to. So this to is used in a comparative way. So we're comparing burger to steak, right? You prefer a charred burger to a steak. So when we are comparing two things, we're talking about preference. We'll say compare A to B. In this case, charred burger to a smoky steak. And then it says, and a sweet sauce over the one that has more of a vinegar tang to it. So sweet sauce, again, is that adjective talking about the sauce. Over one. This word one, what is that referring to? And that's referring to our sauce. So this is our subject here, over a sweet sauce over one. So this is basically saying over another, over a sauce that has more of a vinegar tang to it. So this one is referring to sauce, and we're talking again comparing two sort of sauces that has more of a vinegar tang to it. So tang is another one of those fun descriptive noun, but it's very descriptive. It describes taste. So in this case, a vinegar tang to it. Tangy means kind of a little bit sour, maybe a little bit sweet and sour kind of mixed together, and it's quite nice. So citrus often has a tang. Lemon might have a tang to it. Grapefruit has a tang to it. It's got a little bit of sourness to it. So vinegar obviously has a lot of acid, so it's got some tang to it. So overall, this is just describing the types of food that you might find at a barbecue and talking about what you might prefer that food to have. Let's continue. Regardless of how you take it, so take it is eat it in this case, how you take it. I'll take something. I'll take a sandwich. I'll take a burger. I'll take a hot dog. I'll take something. So how you'll have it. Regardless of how you take it or spell it, going back up to our spelling, barbecue as we know it has the same origins, beginnings, stretching back to before Europeans set foot in the U.S. So this is stretching back. We're talking about time. We talk about times that go all the way back, stretching back. So when we talk about a long time ago, we'll use this phrase to describe, a long period of time in the past. So to stretch back in the past to before Europeans set foot in the U.S. So even before some of the Spanish and English and French came to the U.S., this was already happening, the origins of barbecue. Now, technically, the method of cooking outside on an open flame has likely been around since man discovered fire. Yet, it's an early encounter between Spanish conquerors and indigenous Caribbeans that brought us the actual word barbecue. So let's take a look at this. So the method of cooking outside, they're saying this isn't unusual, has likely been around since man discovered fire. They're making an allusion to the caveman who first discovers fire. He probably cooked some food on that fire, so this isn't unusual. But they are saying our modern idea of barbecue likely started between an early encounter, so a meat encounter in this case being they met, a meeting between two people, between Spanish conquerors. Conquerors are people who come over to take the land, right? So Spanish came over to take the land for Spain, and indigenous Caribbean. So indigenous means people who already lived there. Every area on the map has indigenous people. So this is people who live there. So in this case, it was Caribbeans. Now you'll also hear this pronounced Caribbeans sometimes in parts of the United States and parts of the UK. I'll be using the Caribbeans pronunciation. Both are okay. Indigenous Caribbeans that brought us the actual word barbecue. Okay, before you get ready to scrape off the grill for this July 4th, learn more about the history of this quintessential American tradition. So, scrape off the grill. This is a verb phrase that sort of implies that you're getting your grill ready. You're going to scrape off all the old things, maybe some stuff that you left on the grill from the last time you cooked. We often scrape it off and clean it up and get ready to cook something new. Before you do that, learn more about the history of this quintessential. Quintessential is something that is specifically about whatever the noun is talking about. So quintessential America means like apple pie, baseball. It's purely American. You can connect it, right to America, right? We might say something is quintessentially or quintessential another country. You might say like good engineering, especially cars, is quintessential German, quintessentially German, if you're using the adverb form. So this is a quintessential tradition, right? So this is an adjective, and then American is also an adjective. So quintessential American tradition. Right, let's look at, where did barbecue come from? Fantastic question. Where did it come from? Everyone's been doing it for decades, centuries. The word barbecue has its origins in the Caribbean, where the Tainos is the name of the indigenous people, which we know means people who already live there, where the Tainos, indigenous people who inhabited the Caribbean islands, lived before being largely wiped out by Spanish conquistadors during the 15th century, according to the Smithsonian Magazine. So these are people who lived there. The Spanish came over. They took over that area, largely wiped out. Wiped out in this sense means killed. They were no longer there. So the Spanish came over, took a lot of the land. A lot of the people fought, and they didn't win. So they were wiped out. The word itself is believed to have stemmed from the Taino word BBQ, which referred to the wooden frames they used to cook over a fire. So this is referring to maybe a noun. So the barbecue are the name or the name of the wood, or the wooden frames that they put over a fire. So they cooked it on a barbecue. And so that was the wood. That's what the name of the wood. When Spanish conquerors like Christopher Columbus gazed upon the native population in the Caribbean and saw them using this method for cooking meats, they took barbecue and turned it into barbacoa. This is according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So gazed upon, gazed means looked. So when the Spanish conquerors like Christopher Columbus gazed upon the native population, means when they looked upon, saw what they were doing, they saw them using this method for cooking. And they took it and turned it into the word barbacoa. All right, let's skip a little bit ahead here. Now it's important to understand, how has it transformed? So we went from the old way, what it looked like, the actual barbecue, the shelf sort of made out of wood. And what's happening now? How's it transformed? Transform means to change. How has it changed? And the cuisine of barbecue has transformed time and time again, region by region, becoming an American tradition, especially during summer holidays like Memorial Day, July 4th, and Labor Day. So we start off with this idea: the cuisine of barbecue has transformed time and time again. So time and time again is an idiomatic expression that sort of implies it happening over and over and over and over and over. What you're wanting to say, you're wanting to stress this idea that a lot of time has passed and there has been a lot of change in that time. So time and time again refers to something changing again and again. We say it twice: time and time again. It implies many changes over a long period of time. Region by region, very similar. Region by region means every section or every area where it had changed has something a little bit different. So it's changed by region. So in the United States, as we'll find out a little bit later, different regions have different types of barbecue, different sauces, different ways of cooking. And so it's not the same as a different region in the United States or Australia or the UK or Scotland, wherever they barbecue. It's a little bit different by region. As it was spread by Spaniards, the word started to transform. And also the cooking methods and cooking styles started to transform, said Chef Alexander Strong. So this person is an executive chef at a restaurant, and he's basically saying again the word started to transform in the cooking methods. So this is why when we say barbecue, people in different regions might understand that to be different. If you spend a lot of time in Europe, a lot of time barbecue means just cooking on the grill outside, right? Just putting some meat on this grill and cooking it, and that's a barbecue. If you go to some places in the United States, barbecue might mean something different. It might mean cooking things low and slow over coals. And so they might take like ribs or brisket, and they might put it on a grill or put it on some sort of smoker, close the door, and then let it cook for 10, 12 hours, something like that. And that's barbecue to them, right? They might think of grilling as, or they might think of putting the food on the grill. They call it grilling. It's not barbecue. Whereas in Europe or in Australia, putting that hot food on the grill might be considered barbecue. So the cooking methods and cooking styles started to transform. Of course, other countries like Jamaica, Korea, and Australia have their own famous versions of barbecue. But the US is unique given that there's so many different styles of barbecue, said Strong. And so much of that variety is thanks to immigrants and the unique locations from where the barbecue originates, she said. So this is what I was talking about. Other regions, other countries have their styles. The U.S. is very large, and the U.S. Has lots of people who've come in from many, many, many different countries and settled in different parts of the United States. Maybe the South, maybe New Orleans and Louisiana, where you have Creole and French. Maybe the Pacific Northwest, the northern areas in New York and New Jersey. So all across America has lots of different immigrant populations, and they sort of brought their own styles with them. So in America, there are so many different types of barbecue methods, ways to cook. Also, there's many different types of sauces. We'll talk about that right here. In South Carolina, where French and German immigrants arrived with mustards in hand, they influenced the state's traditional mustard-based barbecue sauces. So many people think of barbecue sauce as red, right? Maybe tomato-based. But you'll find that in places like St. Louis. That's where you might find some red sauce. But in South Carolina, it's a mustard sauce. Very yellow, very tangy. Remember our word tangy? Very spicy, a little bit of vinegar, some acid. And so, as it is with a lot of things in the United States, they are very passionate about their barbecue. So people in South Carolina will say mustard sauce is the best. And if you have tomato-based sauce, red sauce, they will think is not very good. Our next sentence. And in Memphis, Strong pointed to the city's proximity to the Mississippi River. Early residents had easy access to ingredients like molasses as they came off ships, which adds a hint of sweetness to Memphis tomato-based barbecue sauce. Let's take a look at this. Proximity. Proximity means close to or nearby. And in this case, the city's proximity to the Mississippi River. So because it was very close, they could get some things on the river. They could trade with other places pretty easily. And so early residents had easy access to ingredients like molasses. So molasses is a very thick, sort of sweet type of ingredient, similar to honey. Adds a hint of sweetness to Memphis's tomato-based barbecue sauces. Now, having lived near Memphis growing up, I can tell you that Memphis is also known for having no sauce, Memphis is known for what's called a dry rub. Memphis is really well known for cooking things like ribs with no sauce at all. It's very, very famous. I want to read this parentheses right here because it's got a couple of phrases in it. For the record, Strong says she prefers her barbecue with sauce on the side to really enjoy the charred, smoky flavor of the meats. So this is a good sentence. For the record is an idiomatic expression that means I want to say it, or I want you to understand, or here's an extra note, some extra information. And this comes to us from the legal vocabulary. For the record means when you're adding something to a judge, you're giving evidence. That's called the record, right? You want to make sure that everyone knows it exists. You're entering it in as evidence. So this is an idiomatic expression that says, oh, just so you know, so you're aware, here's an extra note I want you to know. So this person is saying, for the record, I want you to know she prefers her barbecue. She's telling us her preference, right? She just talked about tomato-based barbecue sauces, but she's telling us, for the record, as a note, she prefers barbecue with sauce on the side. On the side means that it's not on the meat itself, like it's in a cup or something off to the side, and you can dip your meat into it, but it's not put on the meat itself. Why does she do this? To really enjoy the charred, smoky flavor of the meats. Okay, let's finish up with this idea of why does barbecue matter today? These days, barbecue or BBQ is used as both a noun and a verb to describe the act of cooking over a grill, or to describe a group of people gathering to traditionally chow down on hot dogs and hamburgers. So this is important. Barbecue now, today, is used as a noun and as a verb. The noun is people gathering, getting a bunch of people around, maybe in a park or someone's house, to traditionally, now traditionally means this is normally what happens, right? Maybe something is different where you're at, but normally chow down. Chow down is a very American idiomatic phrase that means to eat, but it also means to eat very fast, almost like an animal. Animals chow down on something. So when you think of eating really, really fast, nom, 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 that's chowing down. It means you love the food so much you want to eat it very quickly. Now the verb means the act of cooking over a grill, right? Or like I mentioned earlier, in parts of the United States, cooking means very low, on low temperatures, very slowly over a long period of time. Strong said it's valuable to know what goes into the cuisine's rich history before taking a bite of food. Rich being an adjective, meaning full of information. It means it's not boring, it's interesting. There's a lot of information. Rich history before taking a bite of food. I think when you know the history behind what you're getting ready to eat or serve, it just makes it more interesting to your guests, she says. As a Taino, as a Caribbean, we ate around stories and we talked about our history, and it always just made the food taste even better because it's like, wow, all of these hands, all of these efforts went into creating this dish. So this is what I was talking about. When you know the history behind what you're getting ready to eat or serve, so eat or serve, two verbs here, it just makes it more interesting to your guests. She's saying, as a Taino, we ate around stories. So this is an odd sort of phrase, but what this person is saying here is they didn't eat around them. We ate around stories. That means stories were being told as they ate food, right? As they talked amongst each other, as they shared, their day, that's when they ate. as opposed to simply taking your food and going and watching TV or something like that. There were stories being told. There was a lot of food was people gathered around talking to each other, sharing their experiences. We talked about our history, and it always just made the food taste even better. So she's implying if you share stories, if you share history, it made the food taste even better. So obviously this is all taking place in the past tense, made, ate. She's talking about things that happened back when she was young. When I think about the 4th of July, do I think about independence? Yes. Do I think about the United States? Yes. But honestly, when contacted for this story, the first thing I thought about was, I better get on and figure out what we're going to eat. So this person is asking a series of questions. Do I think about the independence? And then they answer the question, yes. Do I think about the United States? Yes. So this is a writing style similar to when people speak. They'll ask themselves questions that they know the answer to, and it adds emphasis to those questions. Usually it's a question that you already know, or it's a question that's very clear. Instead of saying, I think about the United States. I think about independence. You can ask yourself, do I think about independence? Yes. Usually you ask yourself these questions when you're going to say but something. So you're asking yourself these questions of saying, do I do this? Yes. Do I do this? Yes. But I also do something else. It's a good rhetorical or a good way to talk about these types of things. Do I think about the United States? Yes. But honestly, and then this is when contacted for this story, this is sort of like an aside, a note. The first thing I thought about was, I better get on and figure out what we're going to eat. Get on is a phrase, little idiomatic expression that means I better do something. Get on with it. A lot of times you'll see this in the UK and Europe. So to get on with something, it's not as popular in the United States. But I better get on and figure out what we're going to eat. So this person was saying, yes, do I think about all these things? But most importantly, what are we going to eat? And of course, it's barbecue. All right, fantastic work today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did enjoy this type of lesson, go ahead and let me know in the comments if you want to see more about me breaking down these articles, talking about some of the vocabulary, talking about some of the grammar, and then adding some extra context to some of the articles. I would be more than happy to do that. Leave a comment. Let me know if you like this sort of thing. And hopefully I will see you in the next Collab.